Yeah, that's right, we're back with another video. And today I'm pretty excited because I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 favourite skate parks of all time. Now I've limited this to skate parks that I've been to, and this is purely subjective, so without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So skate park number 1 is Prevail Skate House in Dorset. Now this was the first skate park I ever went to. It was lingering at the end of my road, and I used to take JJ for sneaky little early scooter sessions, and it seemed rude not to give it a go myself. So I wound up there with my first skateboard and got addicted pretty much from the get-go. So coming through the front door, there's a really nice mini ramp. I learnt a lot of tricks there, and I also learnt to drop in for the first time. Coming through into the main hall, there's a big fully featured street course. Tucked away in the corner, there's also a spine ramp where I learnt to do my first spine transfers. There's also a resi ramp to practice your jumping, and there's also some jump boxes to put that jumping into practice. Behind the resi ramp is a 7-foot mini ramp, which is a pretty good test of any mini ramp tricks that I was learning. And my favourite feature of this entire skate park is the bowl, and that's where I learnt to carve and pump and endlessly go round and round in a figure of 8. It was a lot of fun. Next to the bowl is a foam pit, which has got a terrifying roll in, and there's a bit of a baptism of fire when you first try it. And then if that's not enough, there is an outside section. So there's a 9-foot vert ramp. Behind that is a 6-foot mini ramp, which is a lot of fun. And there's also a concrete pump track. And again, that pump track was really handy for learning to pump and carve. And I also tested out my carving skills in some of the tighter pockets of that pump track. Last thing is the DIY street section, which lingers around the corner, and that's super tight. If you're into DIY style transitions, then that could be the ticket. Whenever I travel back to Dorset, I can't wait to get back to Prevail Skate House and have a few sessions. It's a lovely trip down memory lane, and I still find it a lot of fun and a great challenge to go back there and test my skills. Okay, we're into skate park number 2, which is Duck Lane Skate Park in Bournemouth. Now this was my first outdoor concrete skate park experience, and it was pretty gnarly. I didn't know it at the time, but this is a pretty challenging skateboarding spot, and it's a pretty complex bowl arrangement. It's got some tight pockets that go down into a snake run that then go into a square bowl, and the icing on the cake is the 9-foot deep bowl. And I had loads of fun just trying to pick new lines, seeing if I could link certain carves into other carves, basically try and keep up my speed and pump around. Now that deep bowl became my Everest, and I dedicated a fair chunk of time learning to front side and backside carve grind. And I remember when I finally got the trucks up there, it was a pretty emotional moment. That mini ramp in the square bowl is also pretty challenging. It's about 5.5 foot tall, and it was a really good test of any mini ramp tricks and coping tricks that I learned. Trying to get down the snake run is a bit trickier than it looks. It doesn't quite line up, but you can make it line up if you get your carving turns nice and tight. And then the clover pockets at the top were enormous fun, and again there's loads of different ways you can link those up. It's worth bearing in mind though that this is a fast bowl, and it's once you get the hang of building the speed, it's quite easy to get too much speed and loop out of the top, and a couple of really emotional dismounts coming out of the top over the coping. I met loads of great people at Duck Lane Skate Park and learnt a lot about transition skateboarding in the process. There's ample parking. If you are going to go there, it's worth packing a broom and some wet wipes, because there's usually a bit of a surprise waiting for you somewhere in that bowl. But other than that, get down to Duck Lane Skate Park. It's firmly in my top 10 skate parks of all time. So next up, we're heading into skate park number 3, which is my local skate park, Mount Hawke Skate Park in Cornwall. Now, this skate park is absolutely massive, and it's pretty much got everything that I'd need as a skateboarder. First thing that confronts you when you go through the front door is a massive vert ramp, 13.5 foot tall, and that became my new Everest. Trying to learn to drop in on that was pretty emotional, and you may have followed my journey trying to get the most simplest of vert skateboarding tricks going on that ramp. Outdoors, there is a really nice concrete street course built by Mavericks Skateparks, and there's also one of my favourite mini ramps of all time just in behind the door there. And I find dropping in on the extensions and then grinding as fast and as long as I can is a lot of fun. There's a really fun bowl, and that's recently been upgraded with some extensions to provide a little bit more speed. There's also a massive street course that also doubles up as a bit of a pump track. Tucked away in the corner is a hidden gem. It's the Black Pool that used to be housed in Blackpool, hence the name, and that's got pool coping, and that's pretty tight. It's modelled on a real Californian backyard pool. There's also a big jump box section that's been remodelled, and that works better than ever. If you're down in Cornwall and you're a skateboarder, then I reckon Mount Hawke is one of those must skate spots. So heading a bit further afield, skate park number 4 is X Park in Dubai. Now this is an amazing skate park designed by California Skateparks, and it is located down on the front at Kite Beach, so it's a pretty picturesque spot. And this skate park is sort of divided into 3 sections. There's the first section, which is like a snake run stroke spine ramp stroke square bowl. There's a massive bowl with pool coping, and down the other side there's a big street course. There's also a pretty fun parkour section, which is quite interesting to see included, as you don't regularly see dedicated parkour sections. Now everything's built to the highest standard. This skate park is lovely and shiny, as you'd expect of something built in Dubai. Now some of the downsides are it's pretty hot, but they have put some shades up over the skate park to try and combat this. All of the coping is set beautifully. The pool coping is some of the most beautiful I've seen. It's so shiny and well looked after. And that deep bowl was my main focus when I went to X Park, and oh my goodness, it did not disappoint. It's way bigger than any of the pictures sort of led me to believe, and I found the deep end was pretty exciting either to drop into or get a grind on. Also, I think one of my favourite things about this skate park was the square bowl. And that might seem like quite a simple concept, but there was a never-ending amount of lines, and also it doubled up as a really fun mini ramp. Also exiting out over that spine was fun, and then that big sort of snake run, that was really fun to build up a bit of speed, maybe get a grind at the end and then come back down. So even though it's a bit further afield and probably not accessible for everybody, X Park in Dubai is firmly in my top 10. Next up, we're heading to Devon for skate park number 5, which is the Outside Skate Park in Bantham. Now this is one of the most beautiful bowls that I've ever been to. It's sort of designed to fit in with the landscape. Heading in from the top, you go down and it steadily gets faster and faster because it's a little bit downhill. There's pool coping all the way round, and also some old 70s style noping. And the deep end is probably about 7 or 8 foot, which makes it manageable for doing any sort of normal tricks. It's also possible to get massive 50-50 grinds down the coping, just because that coping is so beautifully looked after, and the amount of speed you can get into it facilitates such a grind. There's also a love seat, which we had loads of fun trying to do tricks over the top of. And at the top of the bowl, there is a quarter pipe that sort of marries up to the other quarter pipe, so you can get a sort of fairly gnarly mini ramp session going at the top there. There's a really nice cafe, it's beautiful surroundings, so overall a trip to Outside Skate Park is well worth it, and it's firmly in my top 10. So we're into skate park number 6, which is XC Skate Park in Hemel Hempstead. Now, pretty much the main reason this is in my top 10 is the pool style bowl, which is an absolute corker. It's amazingly designed, it's pretty gnarly, the coping is massive, and recently they've taken off a little bit of the sheen, so there's a little bit more grip to be had. I think most people's criticism in days gone by was it was a little bit slippy because it's indoors and it's sealed concrete. I personally didn't have too much trouble with the grip levels, but I think since they've addressed that, it's even better than it used to be. I had loads of fun trying out numerous lines. Just trying to get things like a 50-50 grind, an axle stall or a rock to fakie is a considerable challenge. Grinding the coping sounds amazing. It's sort of got tiles etched in so that it creates that sound that we all know and love. There's also a little tiny mini ramp, which I found a lot of fun and quite challenging just because there was limited flat bottom. There's a big jump rhythm section with a crazy vert ramp drop in. There's also some street obstacles, and one of my favourite mini ramps, which is just a massive wide mini ramp, and again it's possible to get long grinds dropping in on the extension and then going across. Another bonus is there's a fully featured climbing centre on the opposite side of the skate park, so you can sort of do a bit of a 2-for-1 mission if you're heading there for a day trip. Whenever I'm up working in and around London, a trip to XC is always on the itinerary, and that's why it's firmly in my top 10. Okay, next up is skate park number 7, which is one of the gnarliest skate parks I've ever been to. It's Tredegar Skate Park in Newport, South Wales. Now I remember back in the day my mate Brian sending me a few clips of him skating this pool in Newport, and I remember thinking, crikey, that looks pretty mental. So my first trip to Tredegar was really a bit of a surprise, and I couldn't believe how gnarly this skate bowl was. In the skate park there's also a big DIY section, but to be honest my focus has always been on trying to skate this pool just because it's sort of at the very top end of what I aspire to be able to skate. Now there's a set of steps. Back in the day it had pool coping all the way round, but on recent trips I've been there, some of the coping has been sort of removed, which makes it even more crusty. And the way the skate park is built is sort of really DIY, so it's fun to sample all the different transitions all the way round. It took me a fair amount of time to be able to drop into the shallow end because that is pretty steep. And it also took me ages to be able to carve over the skull, which is in the deep end, and also get over those steps. Every time I go to South Wales, I always try and skate Tredegar. One of the downsides though is that every time I go it seems to be wet or raining, which I think is probably a bit of a South Wales thing. But every so often I get lucky and I manage to get a session at Tredegar, and it puts a massive smile on my face. So it is firmly in my top 10. So heading on to skate park number 8, which is St Ives Skate Park in Cornwall. Now this skate park has got some pretty unique obstacles. One of the ones that's sort of piqued my interest is the loop, and I've spent quite a few sessions trying to get round this. I haven't really done it successfully in the way I'd like, and that's continued my obsession with it. There's also a really steep and gnarly pool style bowl, and that's where I learnt to grind the coping in the deep end. I also had fun trying to get over the def box there, and I know it won't come out in the pictures, but trying to drop in the shallow end of St Ives is probably the most scary drop in I've tried to date. It's not that tall, but the steepness, it just doesn't look like it's going to work. The rest of the skate park is comprised of sort of a big flow section. So there's a spine you can go over, there's also a little gully. There's some really interesting street obstacles with ride-on grinds available, and sort of a great place to practice your 50-50 ledge work. Overall, St Ives Skate Park is a really fun spot, and I often go there when it might be a bit busy elsewhere because it is tucked away right down in St Ives, so it tends to avoid a lot of the crowds. So heading a bit further afield again, we're into skate park number 9, which is Transition Extreme in Aberdeen, Scotland. Now I was lucky to be up in Aberdeen. I did a bit of a skate parks near me search, and this amazing looking indoor skate park came up. And when I visited I wasn't disappointed. Oh my goodness. This is a massive facility indoors, and again it's got pretty much everything a skateboarder could want. My main focus was the 10-foot deep bowl, and again the pictures don't do this justice because this is an amazing bowl. It's got one of the steepest, biggest waterfalls I've ever sampled, and it's a bit of a work of art that they managed to build all of these transitions and hips out of wood. There's also an oververt section, there's a big snake run, and a lot of that snake run doubles up as various mini ramp sizes, which is pretty ingenious. If you're into street skateboarding, there's loads of that as well. And once again, there's a massive climbing centre built on as part of the complex. So if you are into climbing, you can do a double session at Transition Extreme in Aberdeen. Now the downside is obviously if you don't live near Aberdeen, it is a long way to go. But if you find yourself in that neck of the woods, I can heartily recommend dropping in. So heading into our final skate park number 10 is Concrete Waves in Newquay, Cornwall. Now regular viewers will know I've become a bit obsessed with the pool style bowl that's in the corner of Concrete Waves. It's got the concrete coping, and I've had an emotional old time trying to learn the pool coping style tricks. It's been really rewarding, but there is every chance I could go for a cropper, or tends to smart quite a bit. The park is sort of divided into 4 areas now. There's a new area that's been added on, which is the beginnery street section. And I've had a lot of fun trying to learn a few beginnery street bits and bobs. There's also the big flow style bowl, sort of like a Vans Park series style affair. and that's got a spine in it, and regular viewers will know I've tried my hand at getting a few spine transfers going over that one. On the front side of the skate park is a big flowing street section with loads of different options, and there's a pocket to turn around in at the end. Now there's a couple of places that can sort of double up as a mini ramp, and that pocket is one of them. Go back and forth in there. There's also a more dedicated micro ramp up by the vert ramp, and there's also the spine ramp in the flow bowl. So overall, Newquay Concrete Waves is one of my go-to places. If it's dry, I more often than not stick the boards in the van and head over to that skate park. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. There are a couple of notable mentions of skate parks that I really loved going to that don't exist anymore. And I didn't think it was valuable sticking those in the top 10 because they don't exist for you to skate. But the Vans skate park in London was probably one of the most fun I've ever had on a skateboarding session. The heritage of going there, the bowl was amazing, and I'd seen so many clips from it, so it sort of felt like a bit of a star. And the mini ramp was one of the best that I've ever skated. Also, my backyard mini ramp was one of my favourite spots. I learnt most of my tricks on that mini ramp, and viewers of the channel in its early days will remember that mini ramp and how much emotional fun and sort of coming a cropper happened on that mini ramp. So I look back on that mini ramp with fondness. Skate parks I'd like to go to in the future would be California's Huntington Beach Vans skate park. Since my early days of skateboarding, I've really wanted to skate the combi pool style arrangement, and that comes from watching the Vans pool competitions. Now sadly, the original pool bowl combi doesn't exist anymore, but the one in Huntington Beach is the opposite way round, so I could still get a flavour of how it would feel to ride the combi pool. Also, top of my list would be a real swimming pool in California. So if you own a swimming pool in California and you don't mind me coming to skate it, that would be a dream come true. If you've got any recommendations for skate parks to visit, then please do leave those in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. And also, if you're new to the channel, you can feel free to hit subscribe. I make new videos like this pretty much all the time. Also, check out my Instagram, John Bishop Skate, and you can DM me there with details of where your backyard swimming pool is. As ever, my name's been John Bishop, and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.